There are times in life when you can't just do nothing. Your heart tells you to act, even if it's tough. Sometimes one brave person stands up when everyone else looks away. In 1882, in a small town called Cedar Flats, people ignored the cries coming from Jacob Miller's cabin. His pregnant wife, Sarah, was hurting, but neighbors acted like they didn't hear. The closest sheriff was far away, and folks thought it wasn't their job to get involved. Then a rugged guy named Caleb Stone rode into town. When he heard Sarah's cries, he decided to do something that changed 3 lives forever. Why did this stranger risk everything for people he didn't know? Before we go back to the story, tell us where you're listening from. And if this story grabs you, hit subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something cool for you. Caleb had been riding through the mountains for 3 days when he reached the flatlands. His horse carried furs he'd trapped over the winter, plus 2 wolf pelts from animals that tried to mess with him. At 47, Caleb moved carefully, like someone who knew one mistake in the wild could end him. He'd lived in the mountains for 15 years, ever since a fever took his wife Margaret and their daughter Emma in one awful week. He buried them in 1867, sold his Missouri farm, and went west until the mountains took him in. He wanted to disappear, but the mountains wouldn't let him. They taught him to live with his sadness, to wake up to silence so deep it felt like the world forgot how to make noise. His rough hands held the reins easily. He wore homemade buckskin clothes, a worn-out hat, and a thick beard with some gray in it. On his hip was a big knife in an old sheath, his dad's knife, the only thing he kept from his old life besides memories. A rifle was tied to his saddle, cleaned every night, whether he used it or not. In the mountains, staying sharp kept you alive. In his saddlebag was a leather journal, a gift from Margaret for their 10th anniversary. She wanted him to write about their farm and dreams for Emma. Instead, it had drawings of mountain paths, notes about animals, and pressed wildflowers from high meadows. Sometimes he wrote to Margaret, knowing she'd never read it, but it felt like she was listening. Cedar Flats came into view, looking like a small piece of civilization, though it wasn't fancy. The town had one main street with about 20 tired-looking buildings leaning against the prairie wind. There was a general store, a saloon, a stable, a blacksmith, and a few shops for the ranchers and farmers trying to survive on tough land. Caleb had been here years ago and remembered it as a rough place where people kept to themselves because everyone had secrets. It was the kind of town where the law was more of a suggestion, and fights or promises settled things. It was mid-afternoon when Caleb rode into town, and something felt weird. Not dangerous, but off. People walked with their heads down. They stopped talking when he passed. A few glanced at a cabin on the edge of town, then quickly looked away. Caleb stopped at the general store, its sign faded from sun and wind. He tied his horse and went inside, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. The store smelled like coffee, tobacco, and old stuff on the shelves. A skinny man with glasses and twitchy hands stood behind the counter. "Can I help you?" he asked, sounding careful, like he didn't trust strangers. "I want to trade these furs," Caleb said, his voice rusty from not talking much in the mountains. He asked for coffee, flour, salt, and bullets, the usual stuff. The storekeeper checked the furs and raised his eyebrows at how good they were. "Nice work, mountain man," he said. "I live up there," Caleb replied, not big on chatting about himself. While they haggled over prices, 2 women came in, stopped talking when they saw him, gave the storekeeper tight smiles, and moved to the back, whispering. Caleb caught bits of their talk. "Heard him again last night. That poor girl." "Not our business." The storekeeper's face got tense, but he didn't say anything. He finished the deal fast, helped Caleb load his supplies, and practically shoved him out. "Stable's down the street if you need it. Martha Jenkins runs the saloon if you want a room. We don't have much, but we share fair." Caleb saw fear in the man's eyes and maybe shame. "Thanks," he said and left. At the stable, a tough old black man named Samuel, who'd come west after the Civil War, gave him a fair price for stabling his horses, and didn't ask nosy questions. Caleb liked that. As Samuel led the horses away, Caleb noticed a boy about 12 cleaning stalls with focus. "That's my grandson, Timothy," Samuel said. "Good kid. Works hard." Timothy looked up, met Caleb's eyes for a second, then went back to work. Something in the boy's quick glance told Caleb he was scared, not of Caleb, but of something else. As afternoon turned to evening, Caleb walked to the saloon, a big 2-story building with a faded sign that said Martha's Place. Inside, it was clean, with neat tables and a shiny bar. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back tight stood behind the bar. "You're the mountain man who rode in," she said, not asking. "Small towns spread news fast. Just need a room and food," Caleb said. "Got both. $2 for a bed, breakfast, and dinner. Extra $1 for a bath." Martha sized him up like she'd spent years judging people. "You looking for trouble?" "No, ma'am. Just passing through to get supplies, then heading back." Something in his voice must have been okay, because she nodded. "Room 3 upstairs. Supper's at 6. We got stew tonight, so you're in luck." As Caleb started upstairs, Martha spoke quieter. "You seem like a good guy. Good guys are rare here lately. If you're smart, you'll keep to yourself, rest, and leave tomorrow." Caleb paused. "That a warning or advice?" "Both," Martha said. "This town's got problems that don't involve you." He nodded and went to his room, small but clean, with a bed, a washstand, and a window over the main street. He set down his gear, cleaned his rifle like always, and sat to wait for supper. Through the window, he saw the town going through its evening routine. Men heading home, women taking down laundry, kids playing in the fading light. Everything seemed normal, except for that cabin on the edge of town. People kept glancing at it, then away, like looking too long was bad luck. Just before 6, as the sky turned orange and purple, Caleb heard it, a woman's voice, upset, almost screaming. Then a man's voice, angry and drunk-sounding. Something broke. Caleb stood, looked out the window. Others heard it too. A farmer stopped in the street. A woman on a porch stopped sweeping. They all heard, and they all did the same thing. Turned away, went inside, shut their doors. The sounds went on for 5 more minutes, then stopped. Silence fell over Cedar Flats like a heavy blanket. At supper, the saloon was busier, with men drinking and talking quietly. No one mentioned the noises. Martha served Caleb a bowl of stew, better than he expected, full of veggies and meat. A man in his 60s sat across from him without asking. He wore a black coat, had kind eyes behind glasses, and looked tired, like he'd seen too much pain. "Doc Thornton," he said. "You're Caleb Stone, the mountain man. Nice to meet you. Been a doctor here 20 years. He sipped whiskey, set the glass down carefully. "Martha says you're leaving tomorrow." "That's the plan," Caleb said. "Good plan. Smart plan." Doc stared at his drink like it had answers. Sometimes the smartest thing is to keep moving. Some problems can't be fixed by a stranger. Caleb ate, listening but not talking. "There's a man here, Jacob Miller," Doc whispered. "He's got a wife, Sarah. She's 8 months pregnant. He's not a good man, and she's not safe. Nobody's brave enough to do anything. He's got mean friends. The sheriff's useless. The nearest marshal's weeks away in Fort Collins." "Why tell me this?" Caleb asked. Doc met his eyes. "Because you look like a man who still believes in doing right. Most of us used up our courage years ago. Or maybe we never had it. We've made peace with being cowards, but sometimes I wonder what kind of man I am." "I don't like the answer." He stood, left money for his drink, and walked out. Caleb finished his stew, the saloon buzzing with fake laughter and talk that avoided the truth. He saw it for what it was. A town pretending everything was fine, trading their conscience for an easier life. Back in his room, he wrote in his journal by lamplight about Margaret and Emma, about the mountain's long winters, and for the first time in years, about choices, moments that show if a man's really living or just waiting to die. His dreams that night were haunted by a woman's cries, calling out in the dark while the world ignored her. He'd planned to leave tomorrow, but sometimes plans change. Morning came early, with roosters crowing and wagon wheels rattling. Caleb woke with the sun, as always, and lay there, the woman's cries still in his head, along with the sound of breaking glass and the silence after. He dressed slowly, put on his dad's knife, and went downstairs. Martha had breakfast ready, eggs, biscuits, and strong coffee. 3 other men ate quietly, avoiding his eyes. "Sleep okay?" Martha asked, like she knew he didn't. "Good enough," Caleb said. He ate, trying to tell himself Doc's words were just the whiskey talking, that this town's mess wasn't his problem. He had his supplies, his horses were ready, the mountains were waiting. After breakfast, he went to the general store for tobacco he'd forgotten. The store was empty except for the nervous storekeeper, who seemed glad for simple business. As Caleb paid, loud voices came from outside, a man, angry and drunk, even this early. "Get inside, woman. Nobody wants to see your ugly face." Through the window, Caleb saw a young, very pregnant woman on the porch of that cabin. Even from far away, he saw bruises on her face and how she tried to make herself small. She wore an old patched dress and held something colorful. The man who came out after her was big, maybe 35, with a red face and wobbly walk like he never stopped drinking. His clothes were dirty, his beard messy, and his eyes had a mean look Caleb knew from the war, a look of someone who liked hurting people. "Jacob Miller," the storekeeper whispered, confirming Caleb's guess. Sarah, it had to be her, bent to pick up what she dropped, a small, hand-stitched baby blanket made of bright blue and yellow scraps. Jacob saw it and got mad. "What's this?" He grabbed it. "Wasting time on stupid stuff when you got work to do." "Please." Sarah's voice was quiet. "It's for the baby." Jacob threw the blanket in the dirt and stomped on it. "Baby don't need nothing but food and a roof. Same as you. You think we got money for pretty things?" Sarah knelt to get the blanket, her big belly making it hard. Jacob grabbed her arm, yanked her up so rough she cried out. People on the street saw but looked away. Caleb's hands balled into fists. "Don't," the storekeeper whispered. "It'll only make it worse for her." Jacob dragged Sarah back to the cabin. She looked back at the blanket, tears on her face. The door slammed shut, and the street went back to normal. Caleb stood there a long time. "How long's this been going on?" he asked. 2 years, maybe more," the storekeeper said, swallowing hard. "She was from a farm north of here. Her parents died in a fire. Jacob married her a month later, said he was helping her. Guess we know what his help looks like. And nobody does anything? What can we do?" The storekeeper's voice broke. "Jacob's got friends, Bull Mackey, Tom Reed, Pete Dawson. Mean guys. They'd burn down anyone who got in the way. The sheriff's in Jacob's pocket, gets free whiskey at Jacob's saloon on the north side. The law won't help." Caleb paid for his tobacco and walked out. The morning was bright, the sky clear blue. A perfect day. He picked up the blanket from the dirt. The stitches were careful, full of love. Each piece of fabric was picked with care, sewn with hope. It was dirty now, one corner torn where Jacob's boot hit it. Caleb brushed it off and folded it gently. At the stable, he told Samuel, "I need to keep the horses another day." "You heard something last night?" Samuel said. "Saw something this morning." "Both?" Samuel nodded slowly. "I was a slave once in Mississippi. I know what it's like when people watch suffering and do nothing because it's easier. When I got free, I swore I'd never look away. But I got Timothy to protect. Jacob and his guys would hurt him to get to me." "I understand," Caleb said. Fear was strong, especially for family. He spent the morning walking the town, learning its layout, noting where Jacob's friends lived, where the sheriff's office was, and possible escape routes, old habits from his scouting days. At noon, he went back to Martha's saloon. She was wiping the bar, getting ready for the evening crowd. "Thought you'd be gone," she said, not looking up. "Changed my mind." "That's a mistake." "Probably." Caleb put the baby blanket on the bar. "This needs to get to Sarah Miller." "Can you do that?" Martha stared at the blanket, then at him. Her eyes softened for a second, then hardened. You don't know what you're doing. Jacob will kill you if you mess with him. He can try. He won't come alone. Bull Mackey was a fighter in Denver. Tom Reed's killed 3 men over cards. Pete Dawson's mean with a shotgun. You're 1 guy against 4. I faced worse. Martha shook her head but took the blanket. You're a fool. A good fool, maybe, but a fool. That afternoon, while Caleb cleaned his rifle on the saloon porch, Doc Thornton walked by and stopped. You're still here? Seems so. Changed your mind about leaving? Changed my mind about a lot. Caleb looked at the doctor. How's Sarah Miller? The baby? Doc's face got serious. As good as they can be, considering. She's due in a month, maybe less. The baby's positioned wrong, breech. It'll be a tough birth, even in good conditions. With Jacob, he trailed off. What would she need if someone helped her? Safety first. Then rest, good food, and a doctor. The baby's breech position makes things risky. Caleb nodded. If things change, could you help her? Would you, Doc? Thornton met his eyes, and they understood each other. If things change, yes. I may be a coward, but I'm still a doctor. Give me a chance to do right, and I'll take it. As evening came, Caleb sat by his window, watching. He didn't wait long. After sunset, the noises started again, worse this time. Furniture breaking, Jacob's voice yelling in drunken rage, Sarah's screams, scared and desperate, begging him to stop, to think of the baby. Caleb stood, looked out. People were closing shutters, turning up lamps to block the sound. The town was pretending again. Then Sarah screamed, "The baby! You're hurting the baby!" More crashing, glass breaking. Her voice got higher, panicked. "Please, God, no. The baby's not moving. Jacob, please!" Caleb didn't think. 1 second he was at the window, the next he was moving, knife on his hip, rifle in hand, heading downstairs. Martha was at the bottom, pale. "Don't do this, please." "Can't stand by," Caleb said. "Not anymore. They'll kill you. Maybe, but I'll die knowing I tried." He walked past her into the street. The sounds from the cabin were louder now. Jacob's rage was wild, fueled by whiskey and whatever else drove him. Sarah's cries were pure fear, not for herself, Caleb realized, but for her baby. He crossed the street, each step heavy with meaning. Behind him, doors cracked open, people watching from shadows. The town held its breath. At the cabin door, Caleb paused. In his mind, Margaret's voice spoke, like it did in big moments. "Sometimes, Caleb," she'd said, "the right thing is the hard thing. That doesn't make it less right." Sarah screamed again. A slap rang out. Caleb tried the door, locked. He stepped back and kicked it hard. The door crashed open, slamming against the wall. Inside was worse than he thought. The cabin was a mess. Furniture flipped, dishes broken, a chair in pieces. Sarah was in a corner, arms around her belly, blood running from her nose and a cut above her eye. Her dress was torn and she was sobbing, trying to make herself small despite her pregnancy. Jacob stood over her, fist raised for another hit. He turned at the door, breaking, face twisted with rage and drink. "Who the hell—" "Step away from her," Caleb said quietly, his voice calm but certain, like he was ready for whatever came next. Jacob's eyes struggled to focus. "This is my house, my wife. Get out. Step away from her," Caleb repeated. "I'll kill you!" Jacob lunged, fists swinging. Caleb had fought drunks before, dangerous because they didn't feel pain, but slow and sloppy. He dodged, grabbed Jacob's arm, and used his momentum to slam him into the wall. Jacob roared, grabbed a broken chair leg, and swung at Caleb's head. Caleb blocked it with his arm, ignored the pain, and punched Jacob's stomach. Once, twice, 3 times. Jacob gasped, dropped the chair leg. "Stay down," Caleb warned. Jacob didn't. He grabbed a bottle, swung it at Caleb's head. Caleb caught his wrist, twisted, and the bottle fell. One clean punch to Jacob's jaw, and his eyes rolled back. He collapsed, out cold. The cabin went quiet except for Sarah's shaky breathing. Caleb turned to her slowly, hands out to show he wasn't a threat. She stared, terrified, trembling. "Sarah," he said softly. I'm Caleb Stone. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help. She didn't move, just stared like a scared animal. I need to get you to a doctor. You're bleeding and we need to check the baby. Will you let me help? Sarah touched her belly, tears streaming down. I can't feel the baby moving, she whispered. He hit me in the stomach. Then we need to go now. Caleb knelt, making himself less scary. Will you trust me? Just for tonight? Sarah looked at him, searching his face. Something in his eyes must have felt safe, because she nodded slowly. Please help my baby. Caleb helped her up gently. She was shaking, maybe going into shock. He wrapped his coat around her. Can you walk? I think so. They made it to the door. Outside, a crowd had gathered, watching from a distance. Martha was at the front, her face blank. Doc Thornton hurried toward them, medical bag in hand. But 3 men stood near the saloon, their stances dangerous, Jacob's friends. That's Bull Mackey, Tom Reed, and Pete Dawson, Martha said quietly. They won't let this go. Let them try, Caleb said. He faced the crowd. This woman needs a doctor. Anyone got a problem with that? No one spoke. The 3 men glared but didn't move, yet. Doc reached them, saw Sarah's face, and his expression hardened. Get her to my office now. Caleb and Doc helped Sarah down the street. Every step felt tense, like trouble could explode. But they got her to Doc's office, a small building next to his house. Inside, Doc checked her injuries and listened for the baby's heartbeat. Caleb stood guard at the door, watching Jacob's friends through the window, talking and planning. The town watched, waiting. This wasn't over. Inside, lamplight cast shadows on walls lined with medical books and tools. Sarah lay on a table, still shaking, hands on her belly. Doc cleaned her wounds, checked her eyes for concussion, and listened with his stethoscope. Caleb stayed by the door, his dad's knife now visible. It was a family heirloom, 12 inches of sharp steel, its handle worn smooth from years of use. His dad had carried it in the Mexican War, taught Caleb to care for it. A knife like this isn't just a tool, he'd said. It's a responsibility. Draw it, you better mean it. Tonight felt like it mattered. Outside, Jacob's friends, Bull Mackey, a big guy with a beat-up face, Tom Reed, slim and sly, Pete Dawson, nervous with a shotgun, were still there. How is she? Caleb asked, not turning. Doc paused. 3 cracked ribs, I think, concussion. That cut above her eye needs stitches. Nose isn't broken, thankfully. He hesitated. The baby? Sarah made a scared sound. Baby's got a strong heartbeat, Doc said fast. I feel movement. The shock and pain probably made it stop for a bit, but it's moving now. Still breech, which worries me for delivery, but the baby's okay for now. Sarah sobbed with relief. Thank God. But you need rest, Doc said firmly. No stress, good food, no more violence. Another beating could kill you both. She can't go back there, Caleb said. No, Doc agreed. She can't. Where do I go? Sarah's voice was small. I have no family, no money. Jacob, he'll come for me. He always said he'd hunt me down if I left. He meant it. Let him try, Caleb said quietly. Doc finished stitching Sarah's eye and helped her sit up. Martha has a spare room above the saloon. It's not fancy, but it's safe. Martha's tough and has a shotgun she can use. Will she take me in? Sarah asked. I can't pay. Martha will do what's right, Doc said. As if called, Martha walked in without knocking, saw Sarah's bandaged face, and set her jaw. I got the room ready. Clean sheets, water, and broth. That girl looks like she hasn't eaten right in months. I don't want to cause trouble, Sarah started. Trouble's already here, Martha cut in. Been here 2 years while we all ignored it? Time we stopped pretending. She looked at Caleb. Jacob's friends are planning something. Bull's talking about a man's rights over his wife. Tom's worried about people meddling. Pete's waiting to see what happens. Jacob's still out cold, but he won't stay that way. Doc helped Sarah up. She swayed, and Caleb moved to help, but stopped when she flinched. He stayed back, giving her space. She noticed, and some fear left her eyes. Sorry, she whispered. Men, they've only hurt me. No need to apologize, Caleb said gently. Take your time to feel safe. They walked to Martha's saloon, a small group that felt like a big statement. Townsfolk watched from windows, some approving, some scared, some unsure. The town was picking sides. Martha's spare room was upstairs, quiet, with a bed, chair, and a window on a side street. She'd made broth, bread and cheese. "Eat," she told Sarah. "Then sleep. Doc will check on you tomorrow. If anyone tries to come up who shouldn't, they'll meet my shotgun." Sarah's eyes teared up. "Why help me? You don't know me." Martha's face softened. "I had a daughter once. Married young, against my advice. Her husband was mean behind a nice smile. By the time we saw the truth, it was too late. She died giving birth. The baby, too. I wished I'd done something. I won't make that mistake again." After Martha left, Doc checked Sarah again, gave her medicine for pain, and went downstairs with Caleb. The saloon was busy now, but talk stopped when they appeared. Doc ordered whiskey, 2 glasses. They drank quietly. Then a voice shouted, "That woman's Jacob Miller's wife. You got no right keeping her here." Caleb turned to see Bull Mackey by the door, with Tom Reed and Pete Dawson. "She's a free woman who chose to leave," Martha said firmly. "This is America. People have that right." "Marriage is a contract," Tom Reed said smoothly. "Legal and binding. She belongs to Jacob. People don't belong to people," Doc said quietly. "We fought a war over that." Bull's face got red. "You calling us slavers?" "I'm saying a woman deserves a safe home," Doc said. "If it's not safe, she can leave." "Jacob wants his wife back," Pete said, hand on his shotgun. "We're here to make that happen." Caleb set his glass down and faced them. His hand didn't touch his knife, but everyone noticed it. "Sarah stays here. She's protected now." "Your protection?" Bull laughed, no humor in it. "You're one old mountain man who should have kept riding." "Maybe," Caleb said, "but I'm the guy standing between you and her. You can leave quietly, or we'll see how this goes. Your choice." The room got tense. Patrons backed away. Martha's hand slipped under the bar, probably for her shotgun. Tom Reed eyed Caleb. "You're making enemies, big ones, over a woman you don't know." "I know enough," Caleb said. "She's 8 months pregnant, beaten regularly. Her husband's a coward who hits women. That's all I need." "Noble talk," Tom said. "But it won't stop bullets." "Neither will words," Caleb replied. "Make your move or leave." The 3 men stood, thinking. Bull wanted a fight, his fists clenched. Pete was nervous, hand shaking on his gun. Tom was calculating. Finally, Tom spoke. "This ain't over." "Jacob's our friend. We protect our own." "So do I," Caleb said. They left, but it felt like a pause before a bigger fight. The saloon buzzed with talk. Doc downed his whiskey. "You've done it now. Jacob won't let this go. When he wakes and finds Sarah gone, he'll come for you with everything. Let him come." "You don't get it," Doc said. "Jacob's not just a drunk bully. He's connected, runs illegal whiskey. Half the county sheriffs take his bribes. He's got 20 men he can call. You're one guy with a knife." "I've got more than a knife," Caleb said, touching it. "I've got knowing I'm right." "That matters. Enough against 20 men?" Doc asked. Caleb thought of Margaret and Emma, the helplessness of watching them die. He thought of 15 years hiding in the mountains because living hurt too much. He thought of Sarah's scared face, protecting her unborn child. "It'll have to be," he said. A boy ran in, Timothy, from the stable. "Mr. Stone, Grandpa says Jacob's awake and gathering men. Says they're coming." The saloon went quiet. Martha stepped out. "We can barricade the doors." "Won't help," Caleb said. "Tom said Jacob had 20 men. Even half would overwhelm them." He looked at the people around. Doc, Martha, Timothy, others who'd ignored Sarah's pain for years. They were wrestling with guilt now, wondering if redemption was worth the risk. "Anyone who wants to leave, go now," Caleb said. "This isn't your fight. I broke into Jacob's cabin. He'll want me dead. No shame in walking away." No one moved. Doc cleared his throat. "I'm tired of being a coward. I'm staying. This is my saloon," Martha said. "I don't run from fights here." A farmer, Henry Porter, stood. "Got a wife and 3 kids. Watched Sarah suffer 2 years, told myself it wasn't my business. I'm done with that. I'm with you. Two brothers, Jack and William Hayes, stood. We're in, Jack said. Caleb felt warmth in his chest. For 15 years, he'd been alone by choice. Now facing a huge fight, he wasn't alone. All right, he said. Jacob's coming for Sarah, but he's not getting her. Let's get ready. Dawn came sharp and clear. Caleb had stayed up taking shifts with Henry and the Hayes brothers, watching for Jacob. No attack yet. Sarah slept poorly, helped by medicine, but still in pain. Martha brought her breakfast and saw her holding a gold ring. What's that? Martha asked gently. Sarah showed her the wedding ring. Been thinking about it all night. What it's supposed to mean. Love, partnership, versus what it was. Fear, pain. Jacob gave it to me on our wedding day, said I was his. He'd take care of me. I was grateful. I had nothing, no family, no home. He seemed like a gift. She laughed, bitter. Some gift? You couldn't know, Martha said. Couldn't I? Sarah touched her bruised face. There were signs. Small at first. He'd grab my arm too hard, get mad over nothing. I told myself I was imagining it, that I should be thankful someone wanted me. She stood, wincing, and walked to the wash basin. She stared at the ring, then took it off and set it down. I'm not his anymore. I'm mine. And this baby, she touched her belly, will grow up knowing freedom is worth fighting for. You don't take cruelty just because it's called family. Martha picked up the ring. This is real gold. You could sell it for the baby. I don't want anything from him, Sarah said. Not his name, ring, or claim on me or my child. Let it rot. Martha pocketed it. We'll talk later. Eat now. Downstairs, Caleb, Doc, and the others who stayed planned. They'd blocked the back door, watched all entrances, and checked weapons. Not much, just a few rifles, Martha's shotgun, Caleb's knife, and whatever else they could grab. Jacob's taking his time, Henry said nervously. That worries me more than if he'd come fast. He's gathering men, Doc said. Wants to make an example. Morning dragged on. Samuel and Timothy brought food Martha had ordered. People are talking, Samuel said to Caleb. Half think you're a hero, half think you're a fool who'll get folks killed. What do you think? Caleb asked. You're both, and necessary. Sometimes a fool does the heroic thing. At midday, Sheriff Wade showed up, a chubby man with a badge that seemed fake. I'm here about Sarah Miller, he said. What about her? Martha snapped. Her husband says she was kidnapped. Says this guy, he pointed at Caleb, broke into his house and attacked him. That guy stopped Jacob from killing his pregnant wife, Doc said sharply. I've got proof, 3 cracked ribs, concussion bruises. She's 8 months pregnant and he hit her stomach. Wade squirmed. Husband-wife stuff isn't really law business. It's attempted murder when he's trying to kill her and her baby, Caleb cut in. I don't care what you call it, Sheriff. She's not going back. You're messing with a marriage contract, Wade said, but he sounded weak. Sarah has rights too, Martha said. To live, to protect her kid. Or don't those count? Wade looked at the angry faces around him and deflated. I'm just trying to keep peace. Jacob's got friends. If this gets bigger, then let it, Henry said. We're not backing down. Wade left and they knew the law had picked Jacob's side. They were alone. That afternoon, Bull Mackey, Tom Reed, and 3 other guys stood outside the saloon, not entering but showing they were there. Caleb went out, hand near his knife. We got a deal, Tom Reed said, acting reasonable. Jacob says let Sarah come back and no one gets hurt. We forget this happened. And Sarah? Caleb asked. What happens to her? She's his wife. She goes home. To get beaten again? Risk her life and her babies? Tom shrugged. That's between them. Not our business. Not yours. I'm making it mine. Bull stepped forward. You got no right. She's his property. She's a person, Caleb said. She chose to leave. She's not going back. You're starting a war, a younger guy said, eager but untested. Jacob's got 15 men. You got what, 5, 6? You can't win. Maybe not, Caleb said calmly. But we'll make you pay for every step. And when the marshal from Fort Collins comes to check why there's bodies in the street, you'll hang. You're not defending a man's rights. It's attempted murder. The law catches up. Tom's face tightened. He saw the logic. Winning now could mean losing later. You're bluffing. No marshal's coming. Doc sent a telegram 2 days ago. Caleb lied smoothly. Marshal Hayes is on his way. 3, maybe 4 days. Want to start a war you can't finish before he gets here? Doubt crossed their faces. It was a good lie backed by Caleb's calm voice. No telegram was sent. The nearest office was 20 miles away, but they didn't know that. Jacob won't wait, Bull said, less sure now. Then he's a fool, Caleb said. But you're not, Tom. I see you thinking, weighing odds. So here's my deal. Walk away. Tell Jacob Sarah's gone, protected, and if he's smart, he'll let it go. There's no win for him, just losing in different ways. Tom stared, then turned and left, the others following. Bull wanted to argue, but Tom's move decided it. Inside, Doc exhaled. That was smart. But they'll be back. I know, Caleb said. We bought time. Time for people to think, for fear to turn to sense. Sarah came to the stairs, having heard it all. You lied about the marshal. I did. Why? You could have let me go back and ended this easy? Caleb looked at her, this bruised young woman who hadn't given up hope. Giving up on you would be giving up on people mattering more than peace. I've spent too many years giving up on what matters. That evening, something amazing happened. People came to the saloon, not to drink, but to help. A widow, Mrs. Chen, brought blankets and food. Lars, the blacksmith, brought tools to fix the doors. 3 farmers offered to stand watch. We've been ashamed too long, one said. Time to do right. Sarah sat in her room, overwhelmed by strangers helping her. Why now? She asked Martha. Why not before? We were waiting for someone to be brave first, Martha admitted. We all knew. We felt guilty. But fear's strong, and guilt's easier than risk. Then Caleb showed us we could stand up. Sometimes one person going first is all it takes. Sarah touched her belly, felt the baby move. I want my child to grow up where people act when they see wrong. Then we'll make sure your kid gets that chance, Martha said. Caleb prepared, his old army skills kicking in, checking sight lines, planning escapes, placing defenders. Henry watched, impressed. You've done this before. More than mountain living. Scout in the Indian Wars, Caleb said. Long ago. Different life. Why'd you quit? Lost too many good men to bad orders. Wondered what we were fighting for. Then I went home to my wife and daughter. Something worth fighting for. When they died, I lost my reason to fight. Until now. He looked toward Sarah's room. Now I remember what it feels like to protect something important. That night, Caleb wrote in his journal about Sarah, the town finding its heart and life giving second chances. Around midnight, Timothy ran in with news. Mr. Stone, Jacob's at his saloon, drunk and making threats. Says he's coming at dawn to burn this place down. The moment was here. Caleb looked at the people who stood with him, ordinary folks finding big courage. He thought about the odds, about some of them maybe dying. Anyone who wants to leave, go now. No judgment. No one moved. Doc raised his glass. To standing up when it matters. They drank to courage found late but real, to doing right, to hoping the good guys could win. Sarah watched from her window, holding the cleaned baby blanket, tracing its stitches. Tomorrow might bring fighting, maybe death, but also a new start. She whispered to her baby, Your mom's not alone anymore, little one. We've got people fighting for us. Brave people. Whatever happens, know you're loved by a town that found its heart. Caleb stood watch under the stars, knife at his side, ready for what came next. Dawn brought fire, real flames at the back of Martha's saloon. Caleb smelled smoke first, his mountain senses sharp. He woke everyone quietly. Water! Martha yelled, moving to stop the fire. Caleb saw it was a trick to split them up. Henry, take 3 men, watch the front. This is a fake-out. He was right. As people fought the fire, Bull Mackey smashed through an upstairs window near Sarah's room, climbing a ladder set up in the dark. Sarah heard glass break and screamed, grabbing the small knife Caleb gave her, holding it with shaky hands. "Time to go home, Mrs. Miller," Mackey said, coming closer. "Jacob's waiting. I'll die first," Sarah said, her voice strong despite fear. She thought of her baby, Martha's kindness, Caleb's risk. 2 years of taking hits because she thought she had no choice. Not now. When Mackey lunged, she stabbed his arm, not deep, but enough to make him yell in pain. "You little—" He swung, but Sarah ducked, clumsy but determined, and screamed again. Caleb heard, left the fire, and ran upstairs, taking steps 3 at a time. He reached the hall as Mackey grabbed Sarah's hair, pulling her toward the window. "Let her go," Caleb said, voice cutting through the noise. Mackey turned, holding Sarah as a shield. "Come make me, old man." The hall was tight, no room to move. Caleb's mind raced. A straight attack could hurt Sarah or the baby. Mackey was aiming for the window, where others likely waited. "Bull," Caleb said calmly. "You're making a mistake. The fire's out. My people are watching the front. You're alone and trapped." "I got her," Mackey said. "You're trapped. You got a pregnant woman who already stabbed you. Look at your arm." Mackey glanced at the blood. "Let her go, and you walk away," Caleb said. "My word. But hurt her or the baby, and I'll hunt you down." Caleb's calm threat made Mackey pause. In that moment, Sarah stomped his foot and twisted free. Mackey yelled, and Sarah dove into her room. Caleb charged, slamming into Mackey. They fought in the tight hall, Mackey's size against Caleb's speed and skill. Mackey threw a punch that could have crushed Caleb's head. Caleb dodged, kneed Mackey's stomach. Mackey grabbed him in a bear hug, squeezing. Caleb headbutted his nose, once, twice. Blood sprayed. Mackey's grip loosened. Caleb hit his throat, chest, kidneys, hard, precise. Mackey crashed into the wall, dazed, and Caleb slammed him into the doorframe. Mackey slid down, half-conscious. Caleb held his knife, not remembering drawing it. He could end Mackey forever. But Sarah watched, hand on her belly, and Caleb chose to be a protector, not a killer. "Tie him up," he told Henry, who'd reached the stairs. "Board up that window." The fire was out, leaving a smoky smell. The attack failed, thanks to Sarah's courage and their luck. Bull's arrogance and Sarah's quick move saved them. That morning, Doc brought news, spreading a faded wanted poster on the bar. "Look at this." The face was younger, but clearly Jacob. "That's Jacob Marston," Doc said. "Not Miller. He's wanted in Kansas for murder. Killed a guy in a bar fight 3 years ago." The room went quiet. "So he's not just a wife-beater," Henry said. "He's a killer. A wanted killer," Doc said. "There's a warrant." This changed everything. They weren't just saving Sarah. They were hiding a witness against a murderer. "Can we get a real lawman now?" a farmer asked. "Nearest marshal's in Fort Collins," Doc said. 4 or 5 days' ride. We'd need someone to get past Jacob's men on the roads." "I'll go," Timothy said, voice cracking but firm. "I'm small, fast. I know back trails Grandpa taught me." Samuel in the doorway said, "No, too dangerous." "You taught me those trails to help when it matters," Timothy argued. "This matters. That lady and her baby need help." After a quick debate, Samuel agreed. Doc wrote a message with the poster, sealed it. "Give this to Marshal Hayes, no one else." Timothy tucked it in his shirt. "I'll ride fast and careful, promise." Caleb walked him to the stable, gave him a silver dollar. "For being brave. Your grandpa's proud, even if he's scared to say it." "Mr. Stone, why do this for a stranger?" Timothy asked. "I had a daughter once," Caleb said. "She'd be Sarah's age if she lived. I think about the world I'd want for her. One where people help, where guys like Jacob don't win. You riding to Fort Collins. That's the courage that makes the world better." Timothy rode out at sunrise, taking a rough trail. Within an hour he was gone, and they could only hope he'd make it. Back at the saloon, Sarah was shaken but strong. "Bull tried to take me," she said. "If Caleb wasn't here, But you weren't alone, Martha said. And you fought. You cut him. That's strength. I was terrified, Sarah said. Courage isn't not being scared, Caleb said. It's being scared and acting. You did that. Your baby will hear that story someday. As they fixed defenses, word of the wanted poster spread. Jacob wasn't just a bully, he was a fugitive. Some who'd backed him now saw him as a criminal. More people helped. A rancher, McCready, brought 3 armed men. Can't let murderers run free, he said. By noon, they had 15 defenders armed and ready. Jacob was no longer just a local problem. In his cabin, Jacob drank and raged. Tom Reed and Pete Dawson tried to calm him, but the poster broke him. They've ruined me, he snarled. That mountain man, that doctor, all of them. I'll kill them. Run, Tom urged. The poster changes everything. Run after they stole my wife? Made me look weak? Jacob was beyond reason, drunk and desperate. He gathered 11 men, lowlifes who owed him or shared his cruelty. Tonight, he said, we hit them. Kill anyone who fights. Burn it down if we have to. I want my wife and that mountain man dead. Both sides prepared for the fight everyone knew was coming. Cedar Flats, a town that avoided trouble, was now a stage for a battle over its soul. Caleb cleaned his rifle, sharpened his knife, and thought about his path. 3 days ago, he was alone, thinking life was just surviving. Now he was ready to die for a pregnant woman. Margaret would have approved. She'd said a man's worth is what he does when it's hard. He wrote in his journal, maybe his last entry, about Sarah's courage, Timothy's bravery, and ordinary people becoming heroes. He wrote about redemption, second chances, and life giving meaning to empty years. The attack came at midnight, not straight on but sneaky. Jacob's men set fire to the saloon's back with lamp oil to make it spread fast. Flames roared, but Caleb had planned for this. Men with water and blankets stopped it before it reached the main building. Then the real fight started. Jacob and 11 men rushed the front door, desperate and bold. Gunfire split the night. The quiet town turned into a war zone as families hid, praying. Caleb had placed his team smartly. Henry and the Hayes brothers on the ground floor behind tables, McCready and his men on the stairs, Doc with a rifle despite his age. Jacob's men shot wildly, drunk and angry, breaking windows but missing most shots. The defenders fired back carefully, hitting one man in the thigh, another in the shoulder. The attack weakened as Jacob's men realized it wasn't easy. "Pull back!" Tom Reed yelled, smarter than Jacob. But Jacob didn't listen, shooting wildly, screaming Sarah's name. Pete Dawson tried to pull him to safety, but Jacob shook him off and charged the door. Henry Porter, done with his own cowardice, stepped out and shot Jacob in the leg. He fell, spinning into the dirt. The attackers lost heart, seeing their leader down. They ran, except Tom Reed, who dragged Jacob to cover while Pete fired to stop anyone chasing. In minutes, it was over. The fire was out. 2 of Jacob's men lay wounded, crying for help Doc would give, despite them trying to kill him. But victory cost something. One of McCready's men was dead, shot in the heart. Jack Hayes had a bullet in his arm. Martha had cuts from broken glass. The saloon was a mess, smoky and shot up. Sarah stayed in her room, as told, but the battle sound scared her. When Caleb checked, she was in a corner, arms around her belly, rocking. "Is it over?" she asked quietly. "For tonight," Caleb said, sitting across from her, wincing from a bullet graze on his ribs. "How's the baby?" Sarah touched her belly, moving, scared. "I feel its heartbeat racing." "Baby knows you're protecting it," Caleb said. "That's what matters. A man died because of me," Sarah said, crying. "Because I wouldn't go back." "No," Caleb said firmly. "He died because Jacob chose violence. You chose freedom. Don't let anyone say different." They sat quietly, hearing the cleanup. Glass swept, wounded cared for, the dead carried respectfully to Doc's office. "Mr. Stone, why really do this?" Sarah asked. The truth. Caleb pulled out his pocket watch, dented, scratched, but working. He opened it, showing a faded photo of a woman and a girl with pigtails. "My wife, Margaret. My daughter, Emma. She was 7 here. 8 when she died. Fever took them both in a week. I couldn't save them, just held their hands as they slipped away. After I had nothing, I went to the mountains, became a ghost. For 15 years, I just existed. Then I heard you scream and something woke up. Maybe it's helping someone I can save. Maybe it's a second chance to protect when I couldn't before. For the first time since they died, I feel I have a purpose. Sarah touched his hand. They'd be proud. What you're doing makes their deaths mean something. Caleb felt his grief lighten, not gone, but easier. Get rest, he said, standing. Tomorrow's got new fights. The defenders were tired but proud. They'd held. Doc treated everyone, even attackers, because every life matters, even those wasted on bad causes. At 3 a.m., Tom Reed rode up, hands raised, unarmed. I'm here to talk. Jacob's hurt bad, needs a doctor. After he tried to burn us out? Caleb asked. Yeah, Tom said. I've been on the wrong side. That man who died, his blood's on me too. You're asking for mercy after showing none, Caleb said. Makes me human, Tom replied. Caleb looked at Doc. Your call. Doc grabbed his bag. I'll go for my oath, not him. As Doc left with Tom, Martha asked Caleb, Think it's a trap? No. Tom found his conscience. Too late, but he did. Caleb sat on the porch, holding his watch, Margaret's gift for their 5th anniversary, engraved, May you always find your way home. He'd thought home was a place, his farm, his cabin. Now he saw it was purpose, people worth protecting. Doc returned before sunrise. Jacob will live but limp forever. Bullet broke his kneecap. He won't charge anyone again. Did he say anything? Mostly curses. But at the end, he said, Sarah was the only good thing I had, and I destroyed her like I destroy everything. He thinks he loved her, in his sick way. That's not love, Martha said. That's control, sickness. As the sun rose, Cedar Flats saw the damage. The saloon stood scarred but strong. The dead rancher lay in Doc's office, his friends keeping vigil. Sarah stepped onto the saloon balcony, the town looking up at her. The woman they'd ignored was now their center, the reason they found courage. She waved, and they waved back, a small gesture meaning everything. She wasn't alone or invisible anymore. She was part of them, worth fighting for. Caleb watched the sunrise, thinking of life's strange turns. 3 days ago, he planned to leave. Now he was part of a town finding its soul, a woman finding strength. His watch ticked perfectly, and he smiled. Margaret said he'd find home. It took 15 years, and Sarah to show him home was a choice to care, to fight, to stand up. 2 days passed quietly. Jacob's men scattered, most leaving town. Jacob was in Doc's office, leg bandaged, guarded like a prisoner. Sarah grew stronger, her baby active, due in about 2 weeks. Doc worried about the breech position. Caleb helped fix the saloon, stood watch, and walked the town. Kids waved, women nodded, men shook his hand. Being part of a community felt strange, but good. On the 3rd day, the telegraph operator ran in with a message from Marshal Hayes in Fort Collins. Timothy made it, Caleb said, reading. Hayes is coming this afternoon. And there's more. He handed it to Doc, who read aloud. Jacob Marston wanted for murder in Kansas. Additional information. First wife, Elizabeth Marston, filed attempted murder charges before fleeing. Previously believed dead. Located in Denver, willing to testify. Arriving 3 p.m. today. Marshal Clayton Hayes. The saloon went quiet. Jacob's first wife is alive, Martha said. He told everyone she died, Doc said, angry. He tried to kill her like he's trying with Sarah. She escaped. Sarah sat, hand on her belly. Another woman went through this, survived, and she's coming to make sure he pays. This changes everything, Caleb said. We have a witness, the poster, and Jacob's attack on the saloon. He's done. Word spread fast. By noon, everyone knew Jacob's first wife was alive, coming with a marshal. The town buzzed with hope for real justice. In Doc's office, Jacob went pale when Tom told him. Elizabeth's alive? You thought you killed her, Tom said. Jacob stared at the ceiling, talking like the medicine loosened him. I left her in a snowstorm, bleeding. Took her horse, her coat, left her to freeze. Next day, no body. Thought wolves got her or she died somewhere. I was free. You're a monster, Tom said, sick. I'm a man who wanted what's mine, Jacob said. Elizabeth tried to leave. Can't let a woman show weakness. Then Sarah, sweet, alone Sarah, thought I'd do better. But they're weak. Can't take what makes them strong. You're insane, Tom said. Elizabeth's coming. You'll hang. Maybe I will too for helping you. I'm done. I'll tell the marshal everything. He left Jacob alone with his broken leg and fears. At 3 p.m., 2 riders came. Marshal Hayes, a tough man in his 50s, and Elizabeth Marston, early 30s, in practical clothes, her face scarred but strong. She'd survived Jacob and built a new life. Sarah watched from the saloon window, Martha beside her. That's her, Sarah whispered. The woman who got away. She's helping you stay away, Martha said. Hayes dismounted, eyeing the scarred saloon. He shook Caleb's hand. You're Caleb Stone, the mountain man who started this. Didn't start it, Caleb said. Just stopped looking away. Timothy gave a good report, Hayes said. Brave kid. That's his grandpa's doing, Caleb said. Elizabeth got off her horse slowly, scanning the town until she saw Sarah in the window. Their eyes met, 2 women linked by the same cruel man, by pain and survival. Elizabeth raised a hand, a mix of greeting and strength. Sarah waved back, crying. I want to see him, Elizabeth told Hayes. Let Jacob know I'm alive, that he failed. That's your right, Hayes said. You sure? I've faced him in my nightmares for 3 years, she said. Today I face him for real, where I'm in control. Doc led them to Jacob. Guard stepped aside. Jacob saw Elizabeth and went from shock to rage to fear. Hello, Jacob, Elizabeth said calmly. You're dead. You should be dead. That was your plan, she said. Leave me bleeding in the snow, no horse, no coat. You thought I'd die. A trapper found me, an old Ute man. He saved me, got me through pneumonia, took me to a settlement. I told them my husband tried to kill me. They helped me start over in Denver. She pulled out a folder. I wrote down everything, your violence, my scars, broken bones. A Denver doctor documented it. When I heard you married again, hurting another woman, I couldn't stay hidden. You can't prove anything, Jacob said. I can, Hayes said. Kansas warrant, saloon attack, Sarah's injuries, Tom Reed's testimony, Elizabeth's evidence. You're under arrest for murder, attempted murder, and more. You're going to Fort Collins for trial. Jacob's face twisted. I want Sarah. She's mine. No, Elizabeth said. She's not. Neither was I. We're people, not things. You'll learn that probably at the end of a rope. She walked out head high, closing a 3-year chapter. Upstairs, Sarah waited as Martha brought Elizabeth to her room. They stood silently, understanding each other's pain. I'm Elizabeth, she said. You're Sarah. I don't know what to say, Sarah said. Thank you isn't enough. Then don't say anything. Just know you're not alone. You never were. Jacob wants us to think that. I'm having his child, Sarah said. No, Elizabeth said gently. Your child. He gave DNA, not fatherhood. You're carrying, protecting, fighting for this baby. It's yours. I don't know how to move forward, Sarah said. One day at a time, Elizabeth said, smiling despite her scars. Find work. I'm a school teacher now. Find friends. I found women in Denver who survived like us. You learn you're stronger than you thought. Nightmares fade, scars become proof you survived. Will you stay a while? Sarah asked, voice breaking. I need someone who gets it. I'll stay till the baby comes, Elizabeth promised. And after, there's a place for you in Denver. A community of women. A school needing an assistant. A future without fear. Sarah cried with relief, and Elizabeth held her, 2 women, different ages, joined by pain but building toward healing. Downstairs, Hayes took statements from Caleb, Doc, Martha, and others, piecing together the story. You did something amazing, he told them. Most towns would have looked away. We did, Doc said heavily. For 2 years. It took a stranger to show us better. Don't sell yourselves short, Caleb said. When it mattered, you stood up. You staying in Cedar Flats? Hayes asked Caleb. Caleb looked at the town he'd planned to leave. He thought of Sarah, her baby, the community finding courage. He touched his watch, Margaret's words. May you always find your way home. Might stay a while, he said. See how it goes? Mountains aren't going anywhere. That evening, Jacob was loaded into a wagon, shackled, guarded by deputies. He looked small, no longer scary, just a broken man facing justice. Sarah and Elizabeth watched from the balcony as he left forever. Is it wrong I feel nothing? Sarah asked. No relief, just empty. That's not empty, Elizabeth said. It's space for something new, something good, something yours. Sarah felt her baby kick. Something ours, she said, smiling. Caleb watched, touching his watch, its dent from a bullet fragment that saved him. Margaret was still guiding him home, to this scarred but healing town, these brave people, protecting Sarah and her child. The week after was strange for Caleb. For 15 years, days blurred in solitude. Now each day mattered, filled with purpose. Sarah's pregnancy neared its end. Doc checked her daily, worried about the breech baby. In a city, it'd be okay. Here, it was risky. I may need to turn the baby, Doc told Caleb and Elizabeth privately. It's called external cephalic version, moving the baby through her belly to the right position. It's risky, could start labor early or stress the baby. But delivering breech is worse. What are her chances? Elizabeth asked. If it goes perfect, good, Doc said. If there's bleeding, the baby gets stuck or distress. He didn't finish. Caleb felt that old helplessness, watching Margaret and Emma die. What can we do? Prepare, Doc said. Hot water, clean linens, sterilized tools, and pray luck's on our side. Elizabeth spent days with Sarah, their bond growing. She shared stories of her Denver life, teaching, a women's community. Clara survived worse than us, she said, sewing baby clothes. Her husband burned their house with her inside. She escaped, scarred, but runs a boarding house now helping women like us. She taught me survival's just the start. What you do after defines you. I want my baby to know strong women, Sarah said, folding a tiny shirt. To learn to fight for what's right. Then she's lucky to have you, Elizabeth said. Martha's Saloon became a hub for change. Women planned a school, a fund for families, a way to report violence. The town's shame turned to action. Caleb planned like it was war, checking supplies, preparing for problems. It felt odd using army tactics for a birth, but the stakes were huge. You can't control it all, Doc told him. Birth is unpredictable. We prepare, but it's in God's hands. I don't trust God, Caleb said. He took my wife and daughter. I trust preparation. You're still trying to save them through Sarah, Doc said kindly. Maybe, Caleb said. Or maybe I just want the good guys to win for once. 3 days before Sarah's due date, Timothy returned with news. Jacob's trial was quick. Elizabeth's testimony, Sarah's injuries, Tom's statement, and the poster sealed his fate. He'd hang in 2 weeks. Hayes sent Caleb a letter. You saved more than 2 lives. You showed a town how to stand up. Cedar Flats won't be a place where violence goes unchecked again. Be proud. Caleb tucked the letter in his journal with wildflowers and trail sketches. His life was more than survival now, connection, purpose. That night, Sarah's water broke at 3 a.m. Elizabeth, sleeping nearby, woke instantly. It's time, Sarah said, scared. Within 15 minutes, Doc and Caleb were there, turning the room into a delivery space. Doc checked Sarah. 4 centimeters dilated, early labor. Baby's still breech. I need to try turning it now. Will it hurt? Sarah asked, knowing it would. Yes, Doc said. Sorry. Elizabeth, hold her hand. Keep her focused. Caleb, Martha, helped position her. It was hard to watch. Doc pressed Sarah's belly, trying to move the baby. Sarah cried out, gripping Elizabeth's hand, face twisted in pain. Breathe with me, Elizabeth said. You're stronger than this. You've survived worse. This is for life. Doc worked minutes that felt like hours, then stopped. I can't turn it. Baby's stubborn or the cord's in the way. We'll deliver breech. What does that mean? Sarah gasped. It's harder, riskier, Doc said. Feet or bottom come first, not the head. If the head gets stuck, we have minutes before the baby can't breathe. You'll all stay? Sarah asked, looking at them. Every step, Martha said. Until it's done, Elizabeth said. Caleb met her eyes. I'm here. You're not alone. Labor was slow, painful. Sarah endured brutal contractions. Elizabeth stayed, coaching her breathing, wiping her brow. Caleb helped Doc, his army calm, keeping him steady despite fear. Every cry reminded him of Margaret's last days. At noon, Doc said, fully dilated. Time to push. The baby's feet come first, then body, then head. The head's critical. If it sticks, we have minutes. Tell me what to do, Sarah said, teeth gritted. Push when I say, rest when I say. Trust me. It was a fight for life. Sarah pushed, sweating, screaming until her voice broke. Elizabeth held her hand, crying too. I see the feet, Doc said. Good, Sarah. Keep pushing. Slowly the baby came. Feet, legs, torso. Then it stopped. The arms are pinned, Doc said. I need to free them without breaking them. Sarah, don't push. Breathe. Doc worked carefully, freeing the arms. The baby slid further, but the head stayed inside. Push harder than ever, Doc said. Now! Sarah pushed, face purple, blood flowing, too much. Caleb's heart raced. Again! Doc shouted. Sarah pushed, and the head came out. Doc caught the baby, cleared its airway, but it didn't cry or move. Just a small blue body. Elizabeth whispered, No, no, no. Doc turned the baby, cleared its mouth, breathed into its nose and mouth, once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. Caleb felt time freeze, the helplessness of losing Margaret and Emma returning. Doc breathed again, pressed the baby's chest, and it coughed, sputtered, then cried, a thin, beautiful sound. Its blue tinge turned pink. Doc wrapped it, keeping it warm, and handed it to Sarah. Your daughter, he said, voice thick. Healthy. Sarah took her, crying, looking at the tiny face. Elizabeth cried, too. Martha wiped tears. Doc paused to steady himself. Caleb watched, feeling 15 years of grief crack open, letting in light. He touched his watch, its dent from saving him, and wound it to the right time. First time in years. It was time to live in the present. Sarah met his eyes. Thank you for giving us this chance. You gave it to yourselves, Caleb said. I just cleared the way. The baby, not yet named but loved, nursed. Born into a hard world, but one where people fought for each other, where courage lived in ordinary hearts. Outside, the sun set. Tomorrow had challenges, but tonight was for Sarah and her daughter. Safe, loved, home. Caleb burst through the broken door as Jacob reached the back room. A big man with an axe turned, swinging it at Caleb's head. Caleb ducked, rammed his shoulder into the man's stomach, and they hit the wall. The man was stronger, but Caleb was faster, more skilled. He kneed the man's groin, elbowed his throat. The axe fell. Jacob moved toward his daughter's cries. Sarah stood by the root cellar door, defenseless but fearless. She's mine, Jacob growled. My daughter. She's not yours, Sarah said, steady despite fear. She's mine. I carried her, brought her into this world. I'll die before you touch her. Jacob aimed his gun at her chest. Then die. Before he could shoot, Elizabeth stepped from the shadows, holding baby Margaret's blanket, now clean and finished. She'd hidden the baby below. Jacob, she said. Remember me? Jacob's eyes widened, scared. You're dead. I killed you. You tried, Elizabeth said, stepping forward, blanket like a shield. Jacob backed up. You left me to die in the snow. I survived, built a good life, a free life. She stepped again. Jacob retreated, gun shaking. You're nothing, Jacob. Not powerful, not scary, just pathetic. A broken man who hurt others to feel big. It didn't work. We're here. We survived. We're stronger. Shut up! Jacob aimed at her. Sarah had grabbed an iron poker. As Jacob's finger tightened, she swung, hitting his injured knee. Jacob screamed, dropped the gun, and fell, clutching his leg. The kneecap shattered again. Caleb finished the big man, leaving him unconscious, bleeding. He rushed to the back room, saw Sarah with the poker, Jacob writhing. "It's done," he said gently. "You can put it down." Sarah looked at the poker, at Jacob, and realized what she'd done. She dropped it, stumbling into Elizabeth's arms. "I hurt him," she whispered. "I wanted to." "Good," Elizabeth said fiercely. "He deserved it. You protected yourself and your daughter." "No shame in that," baby Margaret cried from the cellar. Sarah lifted her from a basket, held her close. The baby calmed. Outside, the fighting stopped. The shack fire was out, Pete Dawson and others captured or dead. Marshal Hayes arrived at dawn with 10 deputies, having heard Jacob escaped. He found Cedar Flats scarred but victorious. Jacob was in custody, leg ruined. Pete and survivors were shackled. The big man was dead. Caleb had used his knife in self-defense. Doc was alive but weak, a bullet removed from his shoulder by Martha, who'd learned from watching him. He'd survived, though his arm was damaged. The town held, its people keeping their courage. Sarah and her baby were safe. Hayes looked at Jacob. He'll hang this time. No escape, no soft jury. Attempted murder, killing, attacking a town, his fate's sealed. When? Elizabeth asked. A week, maybe 2. Trial in Denver. You'll both testify. Jacob spat. You turned them against me. They were mine. They were never yours, Caleb said, kneeling, knife in hand. People aren't property. Love isn't owning. You'll die not getting that. He stood, done with Jacob. Sarah nursed Margaret, Elizabeth beside her. 2 women who survived the same monster, building something better. What now? Elizabeth asked. Sarah looked at her daughter, then at Caleb, Martha, Doc, Henry. I'll stay in Cedar Flats. These people are family now, the kind you choose. Later, when Margaret's older, maybe Denver to see what strong women build. But this is home. Elizabeth smiled. I'll visit often. As Jacob was taken to Denver, the town watched, not celebrating, but satisfied. Justice was coming. Caleb stood apart, touching his watch, its dent a reminder of life moving forward. Sarah approached, Margaret asleep in her arms. You're leaving? Not yet, Caleb said. Maybe not for a while. This town needs someone to teach defense, prepare for trouble. Margaret needs someone to show her courage. Sarah smiled. She's got the best teacher, her namesake. But you sticking around helps too. Your Margaret would have liked us. She'd say the strongest people survive tough stuff and stay kind, Caleb said. You're both that strong. Margaret stirred, looked at Caleb, and his heart shifted. Not replacing his lost family, but a new purpose, a reason to stay in the world. The wagon with Jacob left, Elizabeth and Sarah watching their tormentor go. Martha supported Doc, Henry and the defenders stood proud, men braver than they knew. Caleb, who planned to stay one night, realized he was where he needed to be. The sun set, painting the sky gold and red. Tomorrow had challenges, but tonight was for Sarah and Margaret, a town that learned to stand up, ordinary people finding extraordinary courage. Caleb wrote in his journal about the fight, Sarah's bravery, justice served. Mostly about hope, how it survives dark times, grows from kindness and courage. He wrote to Margaret and Emma, I found home like you promised. Not what I expected, but that's the point. Home is where you matter to people and they matter to you. I'm home. Thank you for guiding me. He closed the journal, wound his watch, and put out the lamp. Stars shone over Cedar Flats, watching him heal in community. Tomorrow brought new fights, new reasons to care. Tonight, there was peace. A woman and baby safe, a town better, a man alive again. 3 weeks later, a telegram came from Denver. Jacob was tried, convicted, and hanged. The trial took 2 days. Elizabeth's and Sarah's testimonies, the poster and attack evidence left no doubt. Sarah got the news on Doc's porch. Margaret sleeping. How do you feel? Martha asked. Empty, Sarah said. Thought I'd feel joy or relief. Just tired, like I carried something heavy, and now it's gone, I don't know what to do. That's normal, Martha said. You've been surviving. It takes time to live again. Cedar Flats had changed. The town that ignored pain now fought it. They started a community watch to check on neighbors, help those in need, ensure no one suffered alone. A sign in the town square, carved by Lars, read, Cedar Flats Community Watch. In this town, we look after our own. Speak up. Stand up. We'll stand with you. Doc's shoulder healed slowly. He'd never use his arm fully, but he'd regained his pride. I saved lives for 20 years, he told Caleb. But I never healed anyone's soul till I stood up to Jacob. This town's soul was sick. Standing together cured it. Caleb stayed, taking a room at Martha's, helping wherever needed, teaching survival, improving farms, standing watch. Timothy followed him, learning, the boy who rode to Fort Collins now wanting to help others. What makes a hero? Timothy asked. Not being afraid? No, Caleb said. Heroes are scared but act anyway. They see wrong and fix it, even if it's hard. Like you riding to Fort Collins. You were terrified but went. Elizabeth visited monthly, she and Sarah writing weekly, healing together. She brought books, set up courses for Sarah to study while raising Margaret. You could teach, she told Sarah. Cedar Flats needs a school. You're patient. You know hardship. You'd show girls women can be strong. Maybe when Margaret's older, Sarah said. I want to be there for her early years. But teaching sounds right. One evening, Caleb stood on the saloon roof, compass in hand. It had guided him through the town's defense, now pointed to his mountain cabin. He didn't need to hide there anymore. This town, scarred, rebuilding, was home. Sarah walked below, Margaret swaddled. She'd gained weight, her cheeks rosy, her smile bright. The baby cooed at Caleb. She likes you, Sarah said. She doesn't fuss when you hold her. Babies know who to trust. I've been thinking, Sarah said. You wanted Margaret to grow up in a world where people help, where men like Jacob don't win. You gave us that. I want her to know your story, not to scare her, but to teach her courage. She'll be proud, Caleb said. But you're the hero. You survived, fought, never gave up. We're all heroes, Sarah said. Everyone who stood up. That's